Kumari, madam, to start her deliberation. Madam, please, over to you.
Uh, Thank you, Momun and Bhushan Lal, I think, and Bora Madam, all of you. Thank you, and I wish the audience a very good evening. And I thank you for this opportunity being given to me to share my understanding of Advaita Vedanta with you all. It's a very important system in the schools of traditional classical Indian philosophy. And what I want to highlight first here is see, this Advaita philosophy was systematized by Adi Shankara. He is not the founder or propounder of this in the first place. He only systematized the concepts that were already there earlier. And Shankara occupies a very important place in the history of Indian philosophy in the sense that if we take up the history of Indian philosophy, first they were the Vedic schools. Then came the Shramana period with the beginning of Jainism and Buddhism. And they were Nastika systems which rejected the authority of the Vedas. And then you have once again the revival of the Vedic period where Buddhism and Jainism were sort of vanquished or eliminated or controlled the propagation in India by the Mimamsakas, especially Kumari Labhatta and Mandan Mishra. And then came Shankara. Now, what did Shankara do? If we take the Astika systems, which accept the authority of the Vedas, they placed importance on karma as the means to moksha, which was rejected by the Nastika schools who said that knowledge is the means to moksha. Samyak Jnana in Jainism and Buddhism, and rejection of karma as means. But they rejected the authority of the Vedas. Now, when Shankara came in, he had this duty of restoring the authority of the Vedas like the Astika schools. But karma as means to moksha, he emphasized knowledge as means to moksha. So this is where, like the Nastika schools who emphasized on knowledge, Shankara accepts knowledge as means to moksha. And like these Astika schools, he accepts the authority of the Vedas. So he played an important role in this place. Now, whether we take Western philosophy or Indian philosophy, all systems of philosophy are interpretations of three major concepts: the absolute, the superhuman, the transcendental truth, consciousness, reality, God, whatever you call the highest reality, that is superhuman reality. Then you have the conscious beings, the jivas, and the non sentient world, Jagat. So, all schools of Indian philosophy, anywhere across the world, they have to focus on three categories: the superhuman, the conscious phenomena, living phenomena, and the non living or non conscious, non sentient world called Jagat. Now, the systems may focus on one or more of these three categories, which are constituents of the philosophical triangle, but they cannot, even if they exclusively focus on God or human beings or the world, like in materialism or socialistic philosophies on human beings or theistic philosophies on God, they cannot ignore the world and other conscious phenomena. Now, the relation between um, these three phenomena, that is the supernatural reality, the world, and the jivas. All right. Now, let us take up this. If you take any system of philosophy, you have these broad divisions: epistemology, pramana vichara; metaphysics, prameya vichara; and the phala, the sadhana vichara, the ethics. All right. So these are prominent in both Indian philosophy and also in Western philosophy. These divisions: epistemology, metaphysics, and ethics. Now, pramana vichara, knowledge, criteria for knowledge, theories of truth, sources of knowledge, all these constitute epistemology. Then metaphysics is reality, one or many, interrelation between the constituents of the philosophical triangle. All these, how did they originate, interrelation, all this metaphysics. Then ethics, what is the goal of that system of philosophy? How do you attain it? All that will come under ethics or la vichara. Now, ethics is a justification for physics. Then metaphysics will influence the sadhana or the phala vichara. Now, take for example Advaita. The bondage of the jiva is due to swarupa jnana. All right. So it will have to give pramanas to justify its conception, and the sadhanas will be knowledge as means to moksha, because ignorance or avidya is the cause. Swarupa jnana is the means to liberation. So this is how epistemology justifies metaphysics, and metaphysics will determine the sadhana. Now, let us take up this epistemology. We'll first summarize the philosophy of Advaita. As you all know, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Na Aparaha. That is, Brahman alone is real. Jivas are not. Jagat is Mithya. Now, there are these three technical words which we have to understand: Sat and Mithya. All right. And the other word is Asat. Now, Sat means eternal, Trikala Abadita, which is real at all three times: past, present, future. There is no contradiction, sublation, or denial of this at any time. So, according to Advaita, consciousness is Brahman, Brahman is consciousness. Sachit Ananda Then if we this, you have these concepts you have studied: sky lotus, square circle, rabbit's horn. All these are non existent at any time. past, present, future. Then you have the third category called Mithya, which is Sat, Asat, Vilakshana, different from Sat and Asat. Example, water in mirage, rope snake, dream lion, all these. That is, you perceive them, they exist only at that time when they are perceived, and then after some time, they are sublated or contradicted or denied. Bada. They are Badita categories. So, based on the degree of perception and sublatability, you have three levels of reality in Advaita. The Vyaharika, constituted of the objects, are the objects perceived in this cognition. Example, I told you already, rope snake, shell silver, dream lion, all this. That is, their existence is coterminous with their perception. That is, they have only, that is, they exist only as long as you perceive them. After that, they are gone. Once you see the rope, the snake is no more. Once you wake up snake, the nightmare is no more. So these mithya because they are denied, and they are not asat because they are perceived. That is why they are called as sat, asat, vilakshana. And this third category is called anirvachaniya. We should not say because it is perceived it is sat and because it is denied it is asat, because we don't see the rope and the snake together. When we see the rope, there is no snake, and I don't have the reassurance that it is the rope. So Advaita calls this third category nor non-real. All right. This is called not eternal. Now, not eternal must not be existent is asat. I told you that sky lotus, rabbit's horn, square circle, all these are not even perceived. They don't even exist. Therefore, there is no question of whether they are eternal or temporal. All right. So, not the eternal category. They exist for some time, but not all time. They are not eternal. And because they are not eternal, you should not think are mithya. They have practical value or a pot. Pot is mithya. It was not there before it was made. It will not exist after it is destroyed. And as long as it is a pot, in that pot, so it has got practical value. That is how the world, although it is mithya, it is the place of bondage where the jiva's attitude will determine whether it goes deeper and deeper into bondage or whether it is making use of the world to get out of bondage. Now, that is why uh, you have a lock. You have a lock where there is one key. With the key, you can unlock the lock, or you can open the lock or lock the lock. So, like that, That is why it is said in Indian philosophy, mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha moksha yoho. So, mind is the cause of a person's bondage or liberation. Now, human birth is very rare. It is the consequence of merits that have been done in the past, and it is in this janma that the jiva has to work for its moksha, liberation. And according to Advaita, it is jivan mukti, where you can attain liberation in this life itself. The moment jiva brahma aikya, identity between Jiva and Brahman is realized, Sakshatkara, Atma Sakshatkara, that itself is moksha or liberation. It is Sadhyo Mukti, immediate. You don't have to go like in Krama Mukti to Brahma Loka, Vaikunta, or some other Pitru Loka, and then at the time of Pralaya attain moksha, all that. It is immediate liberation. The moment the jiva realizes its identity with Brahman, liberation can be attained provided the jiva fulfills the criteria, the sadhana chatushtaya that is prescribed in Advaita for realizing Brahman. Now, ekameva advitiyam Brahma Satchit Ananda. So, other than Brahman, there is nothing else. Then, how is it that this Brahman appearing as different worlds, Jivas and Jagat? Because of Maya. Maya is responsible for the multiplicity or the variety in the name and form, Namarupa, the Jivas and the Jagat. Take, for example, a prism. Prism. In the physics lab, you might have all done experiments in your school days. If you pass a ray of light through that prism, you get the 7 colors of the rainbow. Similarly, when reflected in Maya, Brahman appears as the manifold Jagat and the Jivas. Now, I have given you this example, isn't it? That there are these 3 categories, Brahman, Jivas, and Jagat, and how the interpretation between these 3 phenomena are responsible for the different systems of Indian philosophy. If you take up Indian philosophy, there are 3 models to explain the interrelation between Brahman, Jivas, and Jagat. Take the Advaita model, identity model, Aikya model, gold and ornaments. Gold is the same, ornaments different in Namarupa, but basically they are gold. Then that is Advaita model, identity model. The second model is Visishtadvaita model, where Jivas and Jagat are attributes or Visheshanas of Brahman. Chit Achit Vishishta Brahma. So, Brahman is qualified by Chit and Achit as his body, and Brahman, Ishvara, God is the Antaryami in the Jivas and the Jagat. Example, take the Bhagavad Gita, the Vishwarupa Darshan, where you see Krishna revealing himself as Rudra, the Agni, Vayu, all that. All right. And you even have the description that the mountains are his bones, the ocean is his bladder, the veins are the river, the vanaspati, the hair on his body, like that. So that is substance attribute relation, Visishtadvaita model. Okay. the Chitta Chit Vishishta Brahma. Then you have the the second model, you can even call it Beda Abeda model, identity in difference. The third is Madhva's model. Madhva Bheda is difference is very important. For example, you have the Panchamaha Vedas of Dvaita or Madhva's philosophy. Difference between Brahman and the world, non conscious world, Brahman and the conscious jivas, difference between the non conscious Jagat and the conscious jivas, difference among the jivas, and difference among the objects of the world. These are the five major differences in the model, Bheda model of Madhva. So, if we take up Advaita, Brahman conditioned by Maya is responsible for all the objects of the world. All right. Brahman is the Vivarta Upadana Karana, and Maya is the Parinami Upadana Karana. All right. And then you see this world of Namarupa. Now, all the objects of the world and the jivas, they have five attributes which are the nature of their causes. Sat, Chit, Ananda, belonging to the they are manifest as Asti, Bhati, and Priyam. Bhati, knowability, the Chit aspect, Priyam belonging to the Ananda aspect, and Sat belonging, Asti belonging to the Sat aspect. And of course, Namarupa constitute the Maya, the nature of Maya. All right, so these Asti, Bhati, Priyam, Nama, and Rupa, which are the Swarupa of Brahma, Maya, the Parinami Upadana of Advaita, rests on six major Anadi concepts. Anadi concepts of Advaita: Brahman, Maya, then comes Ishvara. Brahman conditioned by Maya is Ishvara. Then you get Jiva, Brahman conditioned by Avidya, which is Tamoguna Pradhana, whereas Ishvara is Shuddha Sattva Pradhana, Maya. That Upadi, Ishvara has Maya as his Upadi, Maya being Shuddha Sattva Pradhana. Then you have the difference between Ishvara and Jiva, and when Brahman and Maya, nobody can say. When the world started, the more you discuss and analyze, more involved in complications and ignorance, and there's never a way out. So, we need not bother about these questions. What is important is, as Buddha said, we had to be pragmatic. We have come as jivas, we have access to the world and Advaita philosophy, and except Charvaka, all the schools of Indian philosophy are moksha oriented, and Advaita is also moksha oriented. And for its philosophy, Shruti is given Paramarthika Pramanya, because in matters which cannot be, which are not material or cannot be accessed by the senses, yato vacho nitante aprapya manasa saha. For Brahman, Shruti is pramana, but even scripture cannot say much about Brahman because it is so infinite. And the other thing is Maya. Maya is also so deceptive that we cannot understand its true nature. For example, see, if the light is too bright, we close our eyes. And if it is too dark, also, even if we open our eyes wide, we cannot see anything. So there has to be sufficient light for vision. Maya is anirvachaniya because it is deceptive, and Brahman is anirvachaniya, indescribable in words, because it is infinite. And words not reveal Brahman, because words, through language, we can capture only 5 categories. Only 5 categories can be described in words. That is dravya, substance; guna, attributes; karma, action; then sambandha, relation; and name. So you call it Brahman because it's big, and Atman because it's all pervasive. Dravya, Brahman is a spiritual category, it is not Dravya. Then Brahman is Nirguna, therefore language cannot describe Brahman. Brahman is Purna and Shkriya Kutastha. Therefore, no karma is possible. And this Sambandha also nothing, because Brahman is Ekameva Advitiyam, and there is no another category with which Brahman can be related. So, mm, the words cannot describe Brahman. Then how is Shruti a pramana for Brahman? See, among the 6 pramanas, Advaita pramana vyavastha, 5 pramanas, that pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, arthapatti, anupalabdhi, they have only vyavaharika pramanya, because they deal with empirical material categories that can be known through indriyas. But Brahman is a spiritual category which cannot be known through any of the indriyas, and therefore Shruti is the pramana in transcendental matters, and therefore it alone has got paramarthika or transcendental validity. Paramarthika pramanya. Why? Because if pratyaksha and other pramanas can result in error with regard to even objects which are visible, rope appears as snake. Where is the guarantee that with regard to Brahman, Jivas, and other spiritual categories, these pramanas cannot mislead you? Even with regard to visible categories, these pramanas have their limitations. Therefore, in matters which cannot be perceived by these indriyas, we cannot rely on these pramanas for getting valid cognition or knowledge. Now, knowledge for Advaitan is prama, abhadita vishayaka jnanam prama. And according to Advaita, only category which is abhadita is Brahman, consciousness. All right. And Shruti is a pramana, but it can reveal Brahman only indirectly. How? By negating the mithya phenomena, that is preventing apprehension of Brahman, Shruti functions as a pramana. For example, if there is a lamp, and if the lamp is covered by a pot, you only have to remove the pot, the light will reveal itself. So, Shruti teaches you through the Panchakosha and the Avastha Trayacharas that Adhyasa or Abhimana with body, mind, sense complex that is responsible for the jiva's bondage. The jiva is Brahman, but because it has Swarupa Jnana, ignorance about its real nature as Brahman, due to Mithya Jnana, Atasmin Tad Buddhihi, it thinks it is body, mind, senses, and therefore it undergoing bondage. So you have to, from the scriptures, after this cultivating the sadhana chatushtaya, acquiring these and going through shravana manana nididhyasana, the self will have to, jiva has to understand that the self is identical with Brahman. Now I told you jiva is Brahman, but how does it if it is already Brahman, then for whom is this instruction? Tattvamasi. This is instruction for the jiva who is questioning who I am, the sadhaka. The sadhaka, because the reality is Brahman, conditioned by Maya, and Maya has got two powers, Avarna and Vikshepa Shakti. Avarna Shakti conceals the Satchitananda nature of Brahman, and Maya, the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya, projects the Namarupa of Maya as reality. So Jiva thinks it is body, mind, senses, and the in error, the Samanyamsha is perceived, but Visheshamsa is not known. For example, in the rope snake, you don't see the ropeness of that rope is perceived as snake. Okay, that snake which is not existent. Now, the real ropeness of the rope, if you see, then there is no error of snake. So, the Visesha nature of the Jiva, the Viseshamsa is Satchit Ananda. That is not realized. The Vikshepa Shakti projects body, mind, senses as Atman. That is why the person thinks, I am so and so. There is identification with jati or nationality or karma, designation, gender. All these are responsible. These are concepts of jiva srishti. Jiva srishti. The objects created by God are converted into objects of bhoga by the jivas, and like that silkworm creates a cocoon around itself and gets imprisoned by its own creation, so also the jiva gets caught up in its own creation, which is manasika, and therefore the jiva has to get out of bondage. And I told you this mind is responsible for its bondage, and therefore through the mind it has to get out of bondage. That is why the jiva has to acquire the fourfold sadhana chatushtaya, the viveka, vairagya, shat sampatti, and mumukshutva. Viveka, nitya nitya vastu viveka. Anything other than Brahman is mithya and therefore not worthy of attainment. Only Brahman has to be attained. So the purpose of the jiva's life is to attain moksha here and now in this life itself, because there is no guarantee what we will become after death. And so when we are in human form, we have to attain it, having access to Vedanta and other systems of philosophy, whichever a person may be pursuing. Then Vairagya. Vairagya is the outcome of Viveka. If the person's thinking is valid, Vairagya comes automatically, because all the objects of the world are only sense traps that will push the jiva more and more into bondage by making the objects of bhoga appear as if they are the sources of ananda. That is not the case. That is why in the Viveka Chudamani, you see Shankara saying that with the weakness for even one object, creatures are becoming victims of death. For example, the bee goes after the nectar in the lotus, and because of that fragrance, it swoons inside the lotus flower. It is imprisoned in that lotus, which closes during the night, and only in the morning that lotus will bloom again, and during the night this bee will get suffocated to death. So the bee meets its death that way. Then you have the fish, which goes after anything that is thrown into water. It grabs the hook, and then that man who is angling, the who is fishing, he will cook it. The fish meets its death. Then the hunter hunts the deer by blowing a horn, and then the deer stops to listen to that sound, and at that time the hunter will shoot the arrow or the deer. So the deer meets death by weakness for sound, attachment to sound. Then the moth, it goes after a flame. The wing of that moth will get burnt, and it attraction for Namarupa, that moth dies. And then the elephant, Sparsha, because of the attachment to the touch of the female elephant, elephants are trapped, by digging a huge pit. That pit is covered by leaves and bamboo and all that. Then this tusker will come along to go to the female elephant, which is tied beyond that pit, and when it tries to go to that female elephant, it will fall inside the pit, and that is how the tusker is pulled out with tamed elephant, and then it loses the freedom of roaming in the forest, and the whole life now it has to spend doing all the jobs that are ordered by the Mahout. It will have to drag logs and do all the other activities that it is ordered to do by the Mahout. So, even with one weakness, Indriya weakness, these creatures are having a miserable death, courting death. But human beings have all these five weaknesses to the five indriyas: eyes, ears, tongue, nose, skin, the attachment to touch. So, Shankara says human beings have to be very careful. Through the senses and the mind, the Viveki has to understand that all these objects of enjoyment are actually sense traps, and therefore they have to be very careful in the way they live in the world. They have to live in the world but not become worldly minded. That is why the lotus egg is always given as an example in Indian philosophy. It grows in water, but it does not get wet because of water, like water on the lotus leaf. human beings have to live in the world without getting worldly minded. The boat is on water, but if the water gets into the boat will sink. Similarly, detached attachment to the world and to activities around the human beings have to cultivate shama, sense control, dhamma, mind control, that uparti, withdrawal from the world, titiksha, fortitude, then one-pointed concentration, shraddha, faith in scriptures and guru. Then they have to become mumukshus, desiring for moksha in this janma. And there are three categories: manda, madhyama, uttama. Manda, they want moksha, but uh, after they listen to the lecture, it is gone. Like this smashan vairagya. All right, that vairagya is only very mild or weak. Then Madhyama, they will start with interest, but then when they come across difficulties, they will abandon their sadhana midway. And it is the Uttama Adhikarin who pursues, like Vivekananda says, stop not till the goal is reached. So they will do their sadhana, and the example that is given is, for example, you take a person who is scared of water to the beach, and the person will not come near the waves. But you say, we are all here, come, you manage to take the person to the water. And when a big wave is coming, suppose you duck that fellow in that water, he will push you aside and run to the shore. The same way, the mumukshu should be having intense vairagya. They are not interested in any object of the world except moksha. For example, if a lizard falls on you, you will be immediately pushing it aside to get rid of it. You are not bothered about which direction it goes or where you are pushing it. Your immediate response is to get rid of that creature from your body. The same way, the mumukshu should be interested in getting, being uninvolved in the world. Then, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. You, get initiated by your guru, studied the text, Shrutyanugrihita Tarka, study text under the guidance of Guru, get your doubts clarified in accordance with as interpreted in the scriptures. Shrutyanugrihita Tarka means logic which is in conformity with scripture, which reveals the tatparya of scripture, and logic which is not kutarka but is in conformity with scripture. That kind of logic should be employed. Then contemplation, nididhyasana, on I am Brahman, the Mahavakya. When that is done, the mind becomes that on which it contemplates. So, when the mind meditates and contemplates on that Mahavakya, I am Brahman, it will become Brahman because it is no other than Brahman. That adhyasa with body, mind, senses as part of sadhana should be negated, and then that jiva will attain sakshatkara with the grace of Guru and God, and that is liberation. So, for Advaita, liberation is not post-mortem experience. It can be attained even while living. All right. So that is the living proof. The Jivan Muktas are the proof for the possibility of Jivan Mukti. Now you have three bodies. Every Jiva, Stula, Sukshma, and Karana Dehas. Stula body, through Panchakosha and Avastatraya Vichara, that by Anvaya Vyatireka method, Neti Neti method, you negate that body, mind, senses are not Atman because they are only sometimes present and sometimes absent, whereas consciousness alone is present in Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti as the Ubhaya and the Abhava of Padarthas categorized or cognized in the three states of experience. You see all the objects, the present in dream and Jagrat. You see objects of the world or dream objects. And in Sushupti, you see the absence of the objects. Who sees the absence? Chaitanya. Like your CC camera, it records whatever is happening in a tea shop, for example, all the people coming and going. But in the night, when the shop is closed, there is no activity there. When the next morning you replay that, then you see the absence of activity. That means what? If there was activity, that CC camera reveals it. But because there was no activity, it is a blank. That is why, after waking up from deep sleep, a person says, I slept well without knowing anything. That means without knowing anything means something was there. That is consciousness, which is a witness to the absence of objects. Dream objects in dream and objects of the external world in the Jagrat state. So that you are. That is the Vakya given by the Guru, Upadesha Vakya. When that is translated into experience and becomes Sakshatkara, then Jiva realizes, I am that. I am that consciousness, not the emotions of the mind, which are modes of the mind, and consciousness is the adhara for the possibility of any kind of experience. It is the adhishtana for the body, mind, senses, and all the experiences that it undergoes through the three states of experience. So, through the body, mind, senses, the jiva has to realize the limitations of the body, the limitations of the mind. The manas has to become a manas. Only then it can intuit Brahman, and that realization of Brahman is not a different experience. Destruction of avidya, dukkha nasha, avidya nasha, and attainment of Brahman or attainment of happiness or liberation, moksha prapti, they are like the two sides of the same coin. Negatively speaking, it is dukkha nasha. Positively speaking, it is the attainment of Brahman, Brahma prapti, Ananda prapti, moksha prapti. So, it is the same experience described negatively and positively. Whatever I could do with the time that was available to me, I have summarized it, omitting details, which I leave it for you all to raise in the question answer section, which I'll be glad to answer. But I have given you the major concepts and the philosophy, the whole philosophy of Advaita as briefly as possible. I hope I have not transgressed the time limits.
No, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much, sir, for this very, very lucid, profound, and comprehensive discussion on Advaita philosophy. And you have actually touched all the major concepts. I mean, starting from Brahman, Jagat, Jiva, and then the very important idea, the Maya concept, Avidya. I mean, particularly, I have enjoyed the very statement you have made about our mind, that mind is the very cause of both bondage and liberation. And that
Mm.
makes our Advaita philosophy very, very practical. And also, you have discussed about the three models of interpretation that we have, one in Advaita Vedanta, then Vishishta Advaita Vedanta, and then Dvaita philosophy. I mean, thank you, madam. Thank you. You have touched all the major issues. So I don't want to take much time. Rather, I would like to request our discussion. I mean, for this session, we have Dr. Shakuntala Bora, madam. So, if madam, if you want to share your reflection, and then of course, the session will be open for Q&A, and our chairperson sir is also here, so we would like to listen from him also. So thank you, madam, once again. And now I would like to request our madam Dr. Shakuntala Bora from Guwahati University to share her reflection. Madam,
Thank you,
please.
yeah. Thank you, Dr. Chakraborty. And with the permission of the chair, and thank you, Madam Professor Shanta
Shanta.
Kumari. Yeah, Shanta Kumari ji.
Mm.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, nice to see you, Shakuntala ma'am. We see each other during the IPCs, and I still
Yes,
remember your visit to our department. I have retired about 3-4 months back.
it is always nice seeing you,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Uh,
And it was really, really nice
mm,
listening to you today once
mm,
more.
mm.
And let me come to what ma'am has said. Professor Shanta Kumari has said. And ma'am has started with the importance of Shankara in Indian philosophy. That is, that we started with the Brahminical system, and
Mm,
where karma is important. And then we have
mm,
the Shramana emerging, who have denied and who have
mm.
rejected the importance of the karma. And it is Shankara again who re-established the
Yeah,
Vedic tradition. And that
clarification here from here.
Madam, you please go ahead, madam Shakuntala, madam.
all right, thank you. And I will not be following exactly the sequence that Madam has followed. I will be summarizing it, taking from the sequence later, and I will combine it. Basically, Madam has talked about the three methods of three methods of the Vedanta. And while talking about it, I have found Madam referring to three important concepts that Vedanta always deals with. That is a Brahman, the absolute reality, the transcendent reality, then the Jagat, and the Jiva, the individual self. And the three methods that Madam has mentioned are Advaita method, the Vishishtadvaita method and the method of difference or the method of the Bheda of Madhva. Advaita is or what we call as a Kevala Advaita of Shankara, Vishishtadvaita of Ramanuja and his followers, and the Bheda of Madhva. So the three concepts we have in Advaita or in all Vedanta are the Brahman, Jagat, and Jiva. But while we try to understand that there is three things, that is the Brahman, Jagat, and Jiva, we also have to make a use of the three concepts in Advaita, the real, the false, and the non-existent. So in respect of Shankara's Vedanta, it is the Brahman, which is absolutely real. Then we have the concept of Maya, which is actually false. And actually, in Shankara's philosophy, we do not have that non-existent. That is the concept of let us say sky flower, or as Madam is referred to, the square circle. These are not there, and Shankara does not exactly talk about it when he talks about what we say as his metaphysics. Now, while defining the real, Shankara says that the real is that which is always lasting or which is always available, which is never contradicted or which never goes out of existence. That alone is a real for Shankara. And for him, Brahman is the only real, which is also the consciousness. But when we talk about Maya or the false, so the question arises, if Brahman is the only real, where is the place of Maya in Shankara's philosophy? So in Shankara's philosophy, we find that the absolute or the Brahman is seen as something else. And that something else is what we call as a Maya, and that is why it is false. Because the Maya is the falsity that we see in place of Brahman. That is what we call exactly as Maya. And man has referred to it that it is real and unreal. And that is why it is indescribable. It is real because I am perceiving something else. For example, I am perceiving the snake in place of the rope. So I am seeing the snake. So the snake is real for me. But when it will be realized as the rope, the snake will no more be there. So it is unreal. So, how do we talk about the status of this snake? Do we consider it to be the real or do we consider it to be the not real? So, it is called indescribable. And then we have also Brahman, which is the absolute real, which is always real, which is always existent. That is also called the indescribable by Shankara. Now, how do we distinguish this indescribability of the real and the indescribability of the false? Indescribability of the false, as I have said, and what ma'am has said, is because we see it now and we will not be seeing it when we will really be knowing the rope. But in case of the indescribability of the Brahman, it is the lack of capacity of the language. That is, the words do not have the power to reveal the reality of the Brahman. What I could gather from ma'am's lecture is that words are man-made, and what is man-made, the language is man-made, and what is man-made cannot grasp that which is real. So with the man-made language, it is not possible to talk about the absolute real. This is what we get of Shankara. Now, how now what do we do about what is the importance of the real or what is the importance of the false in the Shankara's philosophy? False is what we have because we are not realizing the real. We are not seeing the Brahman. So whatever we are seeing in place of Brahman is the false. And that has to be removed if we want to realize the real or the Brahman. And in Shankara's philosophy, the Atman and the Brahman, they are the same. Now, the question, as she has raised from Shankara's philosophy, is that if the Atman, which is the I itself, if that is the Brahman, then if that is really the case, then why are we actually not seeing it? Or what is the requirement? Second question. First, why we are not realizing that if I am the Brahman, why I'm not realizing? And second is, if I am the Brahman, then what is the necessity of coming to Brahman? The first is that is why I am not realizing. According to Shankara, as ma'am has said, is that because it is something else is covering, and she has mentioned the power of the mind. That it is with mind that real gets covered. And then she has referred to it that is only with the help of the mind that we will come to know what is actually the case. So it is the mind power. On one hand, it covers what is real as the false. And on the other hand, it is only with the help of mind that we will realize it. Then why do we need to work on it? If I am the Brahman, why do we need to work on it? I need to work on it because false now, it will become false only when we will realize it to be the false. But right now, for me, the world is the real. Now, she has said that for Shankara, to realize that Brahman or the Atman as the Brahman, what is required is a removal of the false. And why do we need it? She has referred to the pramana of a Shruti. Other pramanas are not sufficient for Shankara to realize the Brahman because they are physical. And physical is a part of the ignorance. That is why they cannot help us. Then how does Shruti help? Even Shruti actually does not help in grasping the Brahman. And in fact, that the Brahman cannot be grasped because it is already there. It is the case. So what is needed is a removal of the false which is created by the mind. So removal of the false is done by the Shruti. Then what is required? She has suggested the means, as Shankara has suggested, that is Shravana, Manana, and Nidhyasana. So Shruti suggests, so it is a Shruti which helps us. And how Shruti helps? Through the hearing of the Shruti. And then we will be doing the thinking on the Manana on the whatever we have had, and then we will be contemplating on that. So that will help. But is that sufficient? Now, Shankara says that is not itself sufficient because we are too much covered with it. So there are certain other requirements, and there are the auxiliary requirement. There are the chatushtaya, that is the four requirements or the four qualifications that everybody who wants to inquire into the nature of Brahman with the help of the Shruti actually requires. Then she has elaborated on these four requirements. That is, first requirement is realizing the difference between what is eternal and non-eternal. That is, she has said that according to Shankara, we need to first know that the world is not real. Then only we can say that the Brahman is real. So that is the first requirement. If I want to inquire, at least a minimum, that requirement is there that I don't consider the world to be real. Then comes that I do not have any desire for the fruits of the fruits of fruits of my activity. It is I am not looking into the future. That is what I could understand. That I am not looking into the future to gain something. That is the second requirement. Third comes that there are certain the six qualifications like control of the mind, control of the sense organs. And why do we need to control? Because actually they help the mind to cover the real. And the last of all, there has to be the desire for the mumuksha. That is, one has to be a mumuksha, or there has to be a desire for liberation. That is, we really have to feel that the world is actually a pain, or the Jagat is actually a pain. Unless and until we feel it, why should we go for the Brahman realization? In fact, that is very important, I feel, in Shankara's philosophy. Otherwise, the question keeps on coming that why should we try to inquire into Brahman? These four requirements actually suggest that it is these people who will, in fact, would like to go for a Brahman inquiry, nothing else. Now, that is why it is said that, as Mama said, that it is actually Advaita is very practical. But is it practical for everybody? No, it is practical actually for the people for whom these four things have become real. That is, one who has really felt that the world is suffering or the world is unreal, and who are ready to go through the six requirements. One who is really desirous of the mukti. It is for these people actually that actually the Shankara's philosophy holds good. For the others, for who the Jagat is still real, for whom the attachment is still real, for whom this is what feels good. Shankara's philosophy does not seem to hold any good. And this is a fact. People ask, is the world an illusion? No. Shankara has said, and Ma'am has referred to it, it will turn into an illusion only for the one who has attained the Brahman. That is, one who has realized Brahman, for him only it will turn into an illusion, not now. For us, for the ones who are ignorant, it is a real, but this reality does not feel good, and that is why we enter into the inquiry of the Brahman, or what is real. Now, the final requirement for Shankara is to realize that the Atman is the Brahman. And what is the method that he has suggested? That according to Shankara, the method is through the realizing that the self it is always true negation, because with as Madam has suggested, as Shankara has said, with our limited knowledge, with a human knowledge, with a human language, it is not possible to comprehend and to apprehend the Brahman. So all that can be done is to realize the self by saying that this is not the self, that is the process, or what we know as an 1880, or the method of negation of Shankara. And there are two things that have to be negated. That is the koshas, or what we call as the sheets, and the other thing is the negation of the three stages of ignorance. That is Jagrata, Susupti, and Swapna. So once we realize that these states are not the self, then what is left out will be the self. That is why it is known as the method of negation in Shankara, whether it is the kosha or whether it is the stages. So it is with the help of the method that we come to the self. That is, in a way, self gets revealed itself. Self cannot be acquired, self cannot be attained, because human knowledge can never attain that which is real. This is what Shankara says, and this is what ma'am has said in her lecture. And only that I have changed some sequences, and I hope that I did a justice to the to whatever she has said. She has said she has brought in many concepts. She has brought in also practical examples to explain it. I am trying to summarize it, and I hope that I have done justice to such a good lecture where Advaita is presented. But what I found, I love Shankara, but at the same time, as I always feel, the question keeps coming up. That is for the people who are ignorant, for us who are in ignorance. How do we ever come to the very point of the inquiry of the Brahman? Yes, the Shruti is there, but even if how do we go to the Shruti? That is, how do we get interested into the very fact of the Brahman inquiry? Because unless and until we get interested into the Brahman inquiry, Advaita loses its significance. Unless and until we think about the world as a suffering, that this is not what I want, Advaita loses its significance. So, how do we actually get interested into the very process of Advaita? How do we, that is for myself also, that is for making other people also interested, how do we make people, or is it a necessity to make people interested in Brahman inquiry? Are all people to be taught into Brahman inquiry? And if some are to be left out, who are to be left out? And if we are to make some people only interested in the Brahman inquiry, then how do we choose? Shankara has given, but do we really get these people? And how do we make them interested in the Upanishads, in the Brahma Sutra, in Shankara? Because the very process of the inquiry into Brahman actually has to begin if Advaita really has to make a sense. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you to Munmun for inviting me to listen to this lecture and giving me the privilege of trying to summarize Madam's lectures today. Thank you so much. Over to you, Munmun.
Thank you, madam. In fact, it's a privilege for all of us to listen you and also Professor Santha Kumari, madam. And this is, of course, I must say, it's a very precise, very explicit summarization of the talk. And also, you have shared your own insights, your own question. So I just want to know from Madam Professor Shantakumari, Madam, would you like to respond to this, or should we open the session for Q&A, question and answer? Madam, kindly unmute yourself. You are not audible, Madam. Unmute your microphone. You are not audible.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, you are audible, Madam.
Yeah. See, Madam Shakuntala had raised this question: how do we get started? Now, see, it is given in uh, Advaita that the world is viewed in three ways by in the Viveka Chudamani by three different people. To the ordinary people, the world is real. To the logician and a philosopher, it is anirvachaniya. And to the jnani, it is tucha or non existent, just like the snake which vanishes after seeing the rope. Now, see, our course of happiness and misery in life is determined by our karmas, prarabdha, sanchita, and agami karmas. People engage in activities, nitya, naimittika, kamya, and nishiddha karmas due to ragadvesha. What we need now is nishkama karma to get chitta shuddhi and ekagrata required for realizing Brahman. Now, why are the people having moha for the objects of the world? Due to avidya, avarna and vikshepa shakti, which makes the anatman appear as atman and objects of dukkha appear as objects of sukha, and what is anrita, what is not real, appear as if it is real. So there is attachment to the objects of the world. That is why the person has to develop dosha drishti. Dosha drishti means seeing limitations in the objects of desire. See, for example, Bhartrhari, he was so fond of a woman that he gave her one fruit which was given to him by a sadhu. That fruit that lady gifted to another man, and that other man to his courtesan. And ultimately, the fruit comes back to the king. The king realizes how this person, whom he thought was so dear to him and who was having all love and affection for him, deceived him. That is how, after that, he wrote the Vairagya Shataka, Bhartrhari. So, see, when people fall in love, they think that they cannot live without the object. After they get over that delusion, they will say, I cannot live with the object. They want divorce and get out of the relationship. So is the same with the case. The children objects, if you give them a new toy, they will pester you, trouble you for the object. After 3 4 days, 1 week, they'll throw away the toy, they'll want a new toy. Like that, we should see defects in the object. What we think as the human body is so attractive, lovable, beautiful. We take all time to dress it, decorate it, perfume because it is stinking otherwise. The Sapta Dhatus, Malamutra, the blood, bones, mucus, hair, nails. These are the constituents of the body which are wrapped up in skin. What is beauty? Skin deep. So once it is like all the rubbish and trash which has to be thrown into the garbage. We put it in a beautiful plastic bag which is attractive. Only when we open the bag, we see the nonsense rubbish within. The same is the case with attachment to body. Attachment to body and objects of the world only lead to sorrow. That is what we are seeing every day, but we refuse to see it. That is what the Yudhishthira says is the greatest mystery in the world. People are seeing death every day, but they think that they will live, they will not die. So we have to see limitations in the objects of attachment. See, for example, soft fur. If we rub it against the skin, it gives you a nice, smooth, soft sensation. But if the same fiber gets into the eye, it causes irritation. For the person who has intense vairagya, all objects of the world are sources of sorrow. So they have to develop vairagya. As long as they are attached to the objects of the world, they will not do sadhana because they are content. They are happy with the world. They'll say, let me grow old. Let me become dissatisfied with the world. Later on, I'll do the sadhana. And now I'm happy with the world. So as long as they laukika, their desires are laukika and they have attachment to the world and they are satisfied with the objects of the world, they will not aspire for moksha or undertake any spiritual activity. They will not. That is why they have to develop vairagya. And for that, you need viveka. So, viveka and vairagya are like the two wings of the bird in its flight to eternity. The bird, the soul, if it has to attain eternal Brahman, it has to have viveka, that all these empirical objects, they are not worth it, and it has to develop vairagya and aspire only for Brahman. So as long as they find happiness in the world and they are preoccupied with the world, they will not do sadhana or be interested in moksha. They have to outgrow the illusion.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Hmm.
Such a nice, lucid explanation. I mean, it's wonderful to listen to you, madam. Uh,
See, for
Madam,
example, there is kheer, nice kheer. A person will want it. But if they know that it is poisoned or it has been licked by a dog, then even a person who is hungry will not want to eat it. So, like that, if they see doshas, limitations in the objects of desire, the desire itself will vanish. I'll give you one very good example. For example, suppose a man wants to rape a woman, and then when he sees the face of the woman, if he discovers that it is his mother, imagine, the whole attitude will change. So they have to see limitations in the objects of, because they are thinking it is source of ananda, they are going for that. But this is where you have in the Chandogya Upanishad, Narada, the Sanat Kumara instruction, na alpe sukhamasti. All these, they are trivial compared to moksha, the ananda, that the bliss that they enjoy in ananda. They are only reflections of Brahman, the Brahmananda, not Brahmananda itself. They are means to reveal the Ananda of the Atman. The real Atman you enjoy in Sushupti. That is why people, they don't want to wake up from deep sleep. They are so happy. When we disturb them, they say, "Why did you disturb me? I was enjoying my sleep." So without any objects, they were enjoying Ananda there. But see the reflection in a pond. If it is filled with moss, it will not reflect the moon. But if we put our hand inside that water and push away the weeds and the algae, then the moon gets reflected. So then the mind is made still through yoga. The chittavrittis are stilled. That time in samadhi state, they experience that ananda. But once they come out of that samadhi, once again the vyavaharika will flood the mind. That is why that ananda is lost. Until they steady themselves in Brahmananda, that coming and going will be there. It will not be permanent. When we desire an object, we get that object. At that time, we feel happy because the chitta vritti subside. But once again, the desire, the object for another object arises. Once again, the vrittis start. That ananda is forgotten. So this will continue until that highest Brahman is attained. All this is happiness is not bliss. The highest is Brahmananda. That is why there are that gradations of happiness given in the Upanishads. So that is the highest. These are all Vishaya Ananda, Swarupananda, Swatmananda, Sahajananda, Atmananda, Nija Ananda, Brahmananda. That is bliss of Brahman. Bliss is Brahman.
Madam, there is one question in our chat box.
Ah.
The question is, can Brahman be known through perception?
No. If Brahman can be known through perception, it will become a physical object. Then you won't need Shruti as a pramana. Brahman is not a Vishaya or a material object made of the five bhutas, earth, water, fire, and air. It's not a material object that we can see. It is consciousness. See, like through our eyes, we see the objects of the world, but we cannot see our own eyes. So, consciousness, that itself is Brahman. Through consciousness, only all these indriyas and pramanas work. But without that Chaitanya, the person will be a dead body. How do we know that we are alive? Because we are self-aware. We experience ourselves. So Brahman cannot be perceived. Perceived in the sense perception of objects, like you see table, chair, all that. How do you know yourself? Self-awareness. You are aware of yourself. You know that you exist. So that is proof. That is proof that I exist. Suppose somebody tells you don't exist, we can't say I don't exist, because the moment you say I don't exist, you are asserting your existence. We cannot see Brahman like we see objects of the world, because Brahman is not a material object. It is consciousness. It is a spiritual category and not objects of the five elements, product of five elements.
Madam, what about Nirvikalpika Pratyaksha?
Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha, for example, you know, see, for example, if a person is sleeping, all right, and then a person is calling them Ramu, Ramu, Ramu. So what happens? That person becomes disturbed. The person wakes up from sleep. After some few seconds, the person realizes that the person is being called. He's being called. So sensation is Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha. Interpretation is Savikalpaka Pratyaksha. Sensation, interpretation. For example, suppose we see a table, we see all the parts, the material with which it is made, the height, the color, the texture of the table, whether it is engraved or glass topped and all that. Then once all this data goes into the making, we make an interpretation. This is a carved wooden table with a glass top. So that is Savikalpaka Pratyaksha. Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha is sensation, indeterminate cognition, non-relational data, all this synthesized by mental activity. When it comes in the form of a judgment, it becomes Savikalpaka Pratyaksha, it becomes interpretation.
Madam, can't you have Nirvikalpika Pratyaksha of Brahman?
Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha of Brahman, how? You are Brahman. You are all the time aware of yourself. Now, for example, see, the Dashama Purusha is there. The story of the 10 idiots who crossed the river. All right. There are some 10 boys, for example, who want to leave the village and go to another village. So what do there? They try to cross a river, and the river, there are a lot of whirlpools, and due to heavy rain, lot of water. So they go to the other side and then they count. That man forgets to count himself and he says there are only 9. Another fellow counts and he does the same mistake. So they think that the 10th fellow is washed away. Then a sadhu comes along and says, why are you are all upset? So here they say that they were 10 friends who crossed the river, and now only 9 of them are there. Then that sadhu counts. And when he comes to the person who counted wrongly, he says, you are the 10th. So that fellow, he was thinking all the time, because he was not aware of himself as the 10th. Now, when being told by the sadhu, he discovers that he is the 10th. He realizes, experiences that he is the 10th. So, what was 10th Paroksha Jnana, that there is 10th, becomes an experiential truth when he becomes self-aware and realizes that he is the 10th. Aparoksha Jnana.
Madam, there is one more question
Ah,
from Paramita Chaudhary, I think.
hmm.
The question is, shall we need to focus only on moksha, avoiding the other three purusharthas? If we need to see limitations regarding the object of desire, then how will we sustain our lives?
See. These four purusharthas, they should not be pursued at the cost of each other. For example, if you want to have a good meal, you say salt to taste, sugar according to taste. If there is too much salt, you can't eat it. If there is no salt, that food cannot be enjoyed. So you have to have sufficient. That is why I told it. World is like fire, attachment to objects. If fire is used properly, it helps you to cook food, it gives you light, it gives you warmth in the cold. But if you are careless with fire, it will burn the house down. So, also attachment to the objects of the world. I gave you those 5 examples. So, excessive preoccupation with the world will not result in spiritual progress. See, for example, veena or guitar, you tighten the strings. If the string is too loose, it will not produce music. If it is too tight, that string will snap. Like that, we have to have a balanced attachment to the world. Live in the world because without becoming worldly minded.
Uh,
That is why we have to be cautious of the world, realizing that these are all sense traps. Only then the purpose of birth is to attain moksha. If not in this time, sometime later they have to do. But if they postpone, we won't know when that opportune moment will come in life. So they have to, the purpose of human birth is to attain moksha. That is why Shankara says in the Viveka Chudamani, Durlabham, to get human body, then to have desire for moksha, and to have the association with the great, the realized, who will show you the way out of moksha. And if a person has all these three and does not attain moksha in this life, it is like committing suicide. Suicide. That janma, they have come so far, 75%. And if they now go back, then when will they complete the German journey? So the purpose, moksha is the ultimate. That is what has to be done, whichever religion you take, attainment of God, either Islam or Christianity or moksha in Indian philosophy. That is the goal of life. It cannot be postponed or avoided. So the moment they have all the facility, they have to make the best use of it for attaining that Parma Purushartha. All the others, Artha, Kama, Dharma, they are all sadhana Purusharthas. That is why moksha is given as Parama Purushartha. See, moksha does not mean something spiritual. It is what? Attainment of permanent happiness without a break, eternal happiness, total destruction of sorrow, permanent destruction of sorrow. Everybody wants that, whoever it is, whether a person who is a person who is given to sensuous enjoyment, materialistic in nature, money minded, or whatever it is, all of them want happiness, permanent happiness, eternal happiness. But they are trying for that happiness through the wrong means. That kind of happiness has limitations, it has an end. Only in moksha they have permanent happiness, attaining which everything else is attained. Total cessation of all desires That is moksha. That concept has to be first understood clearly. Moksha is attainment of happiness permanently. Everybody wants to attain that, even a nastika or a pessimistic or a person who is a skeptic or whatever they may be. They want to attain happiness, permanent happiness. All other happiness is only a means to that. Nobody says, I want to be unhappy, I want dukkha. Everybody wants happiness. That is moksha. Freedom from pain, permanent attainment of happiness for all time. So nobody can say, I don't want moksha. They have to first realize that this concept, the meaning of this concept, and not misunderstand it and associate it in the spiritual sense, liberation after death, going to heaven, all that. Going to Swarga also like going to US on a visa and passport. Once that visa and passport expire, they have to renew it. So each janma is only a step in the journey to moksha.
Thank you,
Whether
madam.
going to naraka is like a jail term. Whether they go to jail or a person goes to parliament, there is a 3 year, 5 year term after which they have to face elections and then once again go to office. So the permanent freedom from all kinds of desires and empirical happiness is moksha, permanent eternal happiness, nirvishaya. Nirvishayaka, independent, object independent happiness. At the worldly level, all Vishayananda. We are experiencing happiness through dependence on objects. The presence or absence of objects makes us unhappy or happy. But this is Nijananda, Nirvishayananda, which is independent. Swatmananda, the Swarupananda, object independent happiness. That is why these jnanis, they are happy even without possession of objects. They renounce everything because they have that ananda which is not dependent on the presence or absence of anything. Mm.
Madam, there is one more question
Yeah.
from our student. She's asking Pushpa. Her question is Jagat non-eternal?
Yeah, not eternal. That is what I told you. Not eternal means it has a beginning and an end. Even the Guru and the Sishya and Shruti are mithya. Mithya means not eternal. Guru has a birthday, Guru has a death anniversary, a 60th birthday. The Sishya also has that. And the book also, the book Bible or Quran or a copy of the Veda or the Bhagavad Gita, there is a day of printing. Even if it is 500, 600 years old, one day in the flood or earthquake or fire, that book is destroyed. So, what is pramana here is the knowledge. Brahman, which is the Vishaya, that is Abadita. All this Guru, Sishya, the medium is Mithya, the mentor is Mithya, the student is not eternal. What is Nitya? Consciousness. Consciousness alone, which is there in the Guru and the Sishya and Brahman consciousness, that alone is real. All the other upadhis are media through which consciousness is manifested. Nama Rupa, everything is mithya. For example, take electrical goods. the tube light, the fan, the iron box, the mixie, the washing machine, the computer, the incinerator in the smashan which burns dead bodies. All the Namarupa are different, but the electricity that works or functions through all these, that alone is real. It is the same thing in this multiplicity of name and form and functions. That is the unity amidst this diversity of name, forms, and functions. Whether the Diwali decorations, Dasara, the colored lights, everything is shape, color, watts, these goods, everything different. But the reality operating through that electricity alone is real. No name, no form. How do you know it? It reveals itself through its functions. You can't see it, but if we touch it, you get the shock. So, dead body and living body, presence and absence of consciousness, that makes all the difference.
Madam, the
Because
last,
of the consciousness present, happiness, pain, pleasure, doubt, all these are possible. These are functions of the mind. Consciousness makes the possibility of experience, whether pain or pleasure, dukkha or sukha, because of Chaitanya.
Madam, there is one last question. The
Hmm.
question is again from some student, I think. Ki, does Advaita doctrine of Maya stand for non-existence of the world or reality? If yes,
See,
how can
that is what I clarified in the beginning. Real means Sat, always present. Asat means non existent, always non existent. I gave you an example that sky lotus, square circle, that rabbit's horn, not present in the past, not now, nor will it be there in future. But world we are seeing, it is present. The world that we are seeing today, if you had seen me 10 years or 20 years back, totally different now. And another 5 years will be little changed. And another 40, 50 years after that will be there only in photos. All the certificates that we may get are only temporary until we get the last certificate, the death certificate. That survives us after we are gone. Understand? Understand, Kuti? All this, what we get, only temporary till the last, the death certificate. So the world is not Maya. It is real. The snake is real as long as you are seeing the snake. You say it is mithya only after seeing the rope. So the world is real and you don't see the rope and the snake together. So the world is not real and mithya to the same person at the same time. That is why you should not say world is real and also mithya. You should say it is not real, not asat. It is mithya. Because once we know the non-real nature of the world, there is no coming back. That is why these jnanis, they abandon home. They dissociate even with their body. The Jivan Mukta continues till Prarabdha is alive. That Prarabdha, once it gets over, like you use and throw ball pens, after that ink is exhausted, once Prarabdha is gone, the body, the person becomes a Jivan Mukta.
thank you, madam. Thank you. Now I would like to request our chairperson, sir, director of IKS, Professor Gangabhushan sir to share his observation. So please.
Thank you, madam. Madam, you have taken all of us to a different state of mind. Uh, so you mentioned that we need to, the only thing that we need to do is cessation of all desires. So the question comes for the layman like me, the desire for moksha is also desire. So I'm not commenting anything
Yeah, but
about you.
there are two kinds of desires. One minute,
Uh-huh.
1 minute, 1 minute. There are
Yes, ma'am.
desires that bind and there are desires that liberate. Binding desires, they attach you to the world and samsara. Moksha is a liberating desire. Suppose you take an empty ink bottle and you put it under a tap, all that blue ink water will flow out. After some time, only clear water will come out. So these desires, you have to replace it with moksha kami. First, what we are desiring for artha, that have to be replaced, substituted by desire for moksha. And after that desire for moksha comes, even that you have to abandon. For example, you want to sleep. So you will stop all your work and go to bed. Then you don't jump on the bed and say, I want to sleep, I want to sleep, I want to sleep. You have to relax. The more you relax, the greater the sleep, the deeper the sleep. Like that, all these desires have to be replaced by desire for moksha, and then you have to remain as sakshin. Even the desire for Brahman is a desire. You have to remain as Brahman. Because whether you desire objects of the world, desire of Brahman, there is this triputi: desire, desirer, and the object of desire. That Veda has to go. Brahman, knower is Brahman. The process of knowing is Brahman. What you want to attain is Brahman. You become that which you desire. Consciousness, you are desiring. What is it you desire? Brahman, which is consciousness. What is the process of that desiring? Consciousness. Remain as that. Remain as Shuddha Chaitanya. Sakshin.
Wonderful,
Remain
madam.
as
Wonderful.
Brahman.
Okay. Uh, Sometimes back, I was reading one small uh, message came through WhatsApp, madam. It is very interesting. The twins in the mother's womb, they started discussing. One child says, uh, "Have you seen mother?"
Ah,
The other child says that no, what you are talking, there is no concept called mother,
ah.
if you not tell me where she is, and then he says that, so this is very good discussion, so I feel, whenever you are talking about the Brahman, which is unexplainable, and he said that you cannot explain, you cannot even perceive the extent
It is
of it,
being. Knowing is being here. In the
Be-
case of realizing Brahman, knowing Brahman is being Brahman. Knowledge and being, it is not becoming. In the process, while you're doing sadhana, you say Jiva becomes Brahman, but the Jiva is already Brahman. It has to discover itself as the 10th person.
Brahman.
For example, if a king goes in disguise in the market, people see the king as a pauper, but only the king knows that he is a king. So you have to realize yourself as Brahman, although the people see you as Jiva from the outside world. The person has to realize oneself there. And that for that baby is not yet born. So it can know the mother only after it is born. The mother will become the mother only after the baby is delivered by her, not before that. The mother becomes the mother only when she delivers a baby. And the baby will be the baby only after it has been delivered by the mother. Until then, it is not born.
What happens, madam, then when the person is attained consciousness, whether he'll be able to come back to this mundane realities, whether the person will be able to deal with
See,
that understanding,
that
with
is
that.
what I told you. It is prarabdha.
Yes,
Prarabdha.
ma'am.
Yogaratova, Bhogaratova, Sangaratova, Sangavihinaha. You have different models of Jivan Muktas. For example, Shuka Brahma. Shuka Maharishi was a brahmachari. Vasishta was a grihastha. Janaka was a Raja Rishi. Krishna was in Bhoga. So Jadabharata was like a madman. So how they live in the world after realization, like Buddha or Shankara or any other person, depends upon their prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma. So that is how Buddha or Shankara, they were able to teach the other people the way to moksha. Otherwise, if every Jivan Mukta died after realization, then there will be no guru to teach the sadhana to attain moksha. So there are different paths. The reality is so infinite. That is why you have karma, bhakti, dhyana, and jnana, depending upon the mentality of the person to attain moksha. So the goal is the same. But whether you take a flight, a train, or a padayatra, or boat, or a boat, or a bus, those are different modes of reaching Chennai or Kolkata or Delhi or whatever. All the rivers go to the ocean. So all paths lead to the same reality, but depending upon the mentality of the person, they may choose whichever path attracts them.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you. Really very mesmerizing, and I don't
Thank
know. I am not that much eligible to reach out to to you to get the knowledge that you have. But it is we.
See, a long journey begins with a small step. We have to walk. If we don't begin, we'll never undertake the journey. So even if it is 1,000 kilometers from Chennai to Delhi, the train has to start rolling. We have to begin the journey. There is no point saying the distance is long. We have to travel it. So the faster, the better.
Thank you so
Earlier,
much,
the
madam.
better.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, madam. Thank you so much. I don't have words to express, but for paying, you have given your valuable time, and you have immense knowledge, and this is pittance time to talk about this. We would like to have physically here. I don't know. I would like to request Munmun madam. So whenever there is any chance, any possibility, we request you to be here uh, for 1 or 2 days. And thanks a lot, madam. And
It
I'm
will be my
indebted to.
pleasure. It will be my pleasure. You can
uh,
see in the IPC, we'll be meeting there in the centenary session. I'll be coming there.
oh, okay, okay, okay. Thank you,
Ah,
madam.
I
Thanks to
plan
you,
to
and
be there.
thanks to Shakuntala madam
Mm.
also. She has mooted the ideas again, reinforced again. The discontinued. It really, really mesmerizing. Thanks to Munmun Madam for properly coordinating. Sorry for the interruptions between some technical issues.
No
But
interruptions.
thank you so much.
Only I was presuming that it will be very easy, but then only when I came here, I got this problem. Earlier, I was doing it through Google Meet. This is
Madam,
the first time I'm on Zoom,
uh,
so it's all
yeah,
right, no problem.
yeah, thank you, madam. Next time we will try to
Our Vice
share
Chancellor,
the
sir, conveyed best
The goods
regards,
are
Madam.
delivered.
Our Vice Chancellor.
The message has been delivered. So that is what
yes.
we should be happy about. Don't bother about the difficulties we think. What we have enjoyed is what we have got. That is it. It was good session. I am
Thank you, Madam.
happy.
Thank you so much.
And if it has been intelligible to all of you, I thank you, Madam Mumun, Bhushan sir, and Shakuntala Madam for all your patience and presence for making this presentation possible. Thank you and Shubhratri.
Thank you, madam. So once again,
Thank
on
you.
behalf of IKS Center, I express our sincere thanks and gratitude to you, madam, Professor Shanta Kumari, madam, Professor Shakuntala Bora, madam, and also our director, sir, Professor Gangabhushan, sir, and all the participants for being with us. Thank you so much, and Shuratri to everyone.
Thank you,
So,
Madam. Shubhratri. Shubhratri.
Thank you and
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you, Madam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam. Good night, Madam.
Good